We are live, Paul Smith Goodson.
Yes,
Yes, good morning to you, my friend. How are you doing?
doing good. How about you?
I'm breathing, so that's a good sign, right? Always a good way to start the day. Um, yeah, and anyway, thank God it's Friday. To our listeners, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and or good night. You are hitting the early edition of the Moor Insights Strategy Data Center Podcast, where we talk all things data center, technology, operations, organizations, you name it. We talk all things technology that are impacting the data center. I am Matt Kimball. More importantly, I am joined by Paul Smith Goodson, the smartest person I know, um, and maybe the smartest person on the planet at this point. Sorry, Elon. And we have a fun slate of topics to talk about. But before we get going, we need to send out a disclaimer that what we're about to talk about is going to be interesting, and you might find it educational, but do not use it as investment advice or guidance in any way, shape, or form. If you do, shame on you. And if you do, blame it on Paul. No, blame it on Will because he's not here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah, yeah, it's always Will's fault. Um, Today we are in episode 39, and without Will here joining us, we have a shorter kind of slate of topics to talk about. Won't be covering networking, but we've got some good stuff to talk about. And we're going to kick it off with my dear friend Paul hitting on IonQ and the fourth sale to the Air Force, whatever that might be. I'm interested to hear it, Paul.
yeah. IonQ is doing really well for itself. IonQ is a trapped ion quantum computing company. They just delivered a trapped ion quantum networking system to the Air Force research lab, and you're going to use it for research and test the precision and how much they can scale it up and play around with quantum networking algorithms. Quantum networking uses one of the weird quantum properties called entanglement. It mysteriously links two particles together, and even if they're far apart, if you change one, then the change instantly affects the other one. So it's fast, it's hard to hack, and if you're sending a message using photons through fiber or whatever method, you're sending a message through there using photons. The photons carry qubits, and because of entanglement and other quantum rules and stuff, the message is secure, can travel between a couple of points really fast. And if someone tampers with it, then that quantum state collapses, and you know immediately that something's gone wrong, and they're unable to hack it. So that's what makes it really great for sending secret things back and forth. So the IonQ's got they've had I think this is the fourth contract they've had with the Air Force Research Lab since 22.
Mm-hmm.
There was one in 23 and another one this year, and in December 24, I think. So anyway, they're going to be working on secure quantum communications and other national security issues. And I'll be interested to find out what they're doing and when they finally decide to publish it. IonQ, by the way, has got a new CEO, Nicolo Tomasi.
Mm-hmm.
He was heavily involved in IonQ's journey to become a public company. At the time, he was working for an investment company and kind of helped them on their way. So he's got He's got a background in I think he's got a master's degree in physics, and so I think he's forward thinking, and we've worked with him before, and I think he's going to do a great job with the company.
So go ahead, sir. I was just going to say it's funny, Paul, because in kind of classical computing, whenever you hear quantum mentioned, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is breaking encryption algorithms, Shor's algorithm, and kind of how Diffie-Hellman is now at risk and everything. But you're talking about the positive side of quantum, obviously, where it enhances security beyond measure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's all because this entanglement. We don't know how entanglement works. By the way, it's just a mysterious part of quantum that we know about, and we're able to take advantage of it, but we don't know how it works. It's like a caveman going out in the daylight and trying to figure out why his skin warms up every time he does that. He's unaware of radiation and what solar can do and stuff like that. But to me, it's kind of a really primary thing like that. Once we understand entanglement, if we ever do, then I think we're going to be probably able to do a lot more things. There's another theory about quantum waveforms, and it's just come out, and I haven't read the paper on it yet, but I'm interested in finding out what they think it can be other than that type of entanglement. So anyway, I think IonQ is on its way. It's doing a great job in other areas of quantum, and of course it's a public company, and we'll wait and see if we ever get any information from the Air Force labs about what they're doing with this. It might be quite a while. IonQ's got kind of a global footprint now. I wrote a Forbes article about quantum Basel in Switzerland. So they've got a system over there, and they've got Washington, D.C., Seattle, and now they've got Rome, New York. It's not a big global footprint, but it is a global footprint. So, and IonQ's it's got 36 what they call algorithmic qubits that are actually can function, and the number of qubits available for doing computations and that type of thing. And their machines can be accessed over the cloud. So,
Paul, let me ask you kind of a pull-out question. So, when you think about quantum, you've got IonQ, you've got Quantinuum, you've got Google's doing a bunch, you've got IBM doing a bunch, Microsoft recently had an announcement. Is this, you mentioned the caveman and the kind of warmth they feel. Are we so in the kind of stone ages of quantum that it's just a wide open market? And all of these companies, there's so much opportunity for all of them. There's really not a strong competition yet because it's still so nascent as far as the technology goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a race. The big thing standing in the way is quantum error correction, because computers are very susceptible to the environment.
Yeah.
And that's the whole issue, is developing a system that is able to correct the errors as they occur, or have the capacity of correcting more errors than are happening.
Yeah.
Once we're able to do that on a large scale, then that's when quantum computing really will take off, and we'll really see some amazing things. And it all boils down. Basically, there's other challenges too, but that's the major challenge.
Yeah, but you'll start to see its real potential get realized as soon as I get you.
Oh, it's a race to fault tolerance. So.
Usually is. All right. This is a fascinating topic, and I love when you talk about quantum because there's just so much there to learn. And I think a lot of our viewers, listeners, are still probably more in my camp, where it's still kind of almost science fiction to them. But we're going to talk about it, believe it or not, in one of my topics here in a few minutes. So not yet, but soon. But let's jump on. So I wanted to kind of go from, you mentioned Basel, Switzerland. I was in Switzerland last week for the Siemens Data Center Analyst Summit. So everyone knows Siemens, right? Huge company. They do an incredible amount of generate an incredible amount of revenue every year. But I think everybody has a slightly different view, and especially here in the States, I think our view of Siemens is less around data center and more around other technologies or enablements. They have a huge data center business. I think it's comes in at about 25 billion a year in what they call smart infrastructure business. And that is everything from, that 15, to 30 kilovolt kind of power coming into a data center, being stepped down through transformers from high power to medium power to low power that sits, that 15 kilowatts that sits on top of a rack. Mm-hmm. They do everything from managing that power, managing the cleanliness, making sure you get a good sine wave continuously so you're not screwing up servers and equipment, to environmentals, humidity levels, oxygen levels, to security, to even like just managing the entire environment through, there's a framework called DCIM, or Data Center Infrastructure Management, managing everything through one single interface. And I was fascinated walking in, because as an IT, and it's all OT, by the way, right? Operational technology. I walk in as an IT person, and I have a view of data center management being, how do I move my workloads from one server to another? When it comes to AI, how do I provision, the right amount of GPUs for the work necessary in front of it? And when I think about power, and I think about power consumption and sustainability, it's more kind of at an abstract level, right? Because it's like you think logically that there's some management in the background that happens, but reflexively, it's just kind of like something that happens automatically, and you don't really think about it as an IT person. So they do a lot of fascinating things, fire suppression, all of the things that you would think about when managing a data center, not necessarily servers, but a data center. But here was my big walkaway. There is so much data they're collecting and digital twin technology they're employing, that if you could take all of this data that shows, power consumption from different power sources, sustainability ratings across the world, if you could take that and combine it with IT management software that does, like a Chef, Puppet, Terraform, that does provisioning of servers and workloads, and you could integrate these two, imagine from like a hyperscaler perspective, what your cost and operational savings could be, and what you could do for sustainability, right? So now you could say, hey, I'm looking at data centers in Northern Virginia, but man, that data center that's running in Sweden or in Norway has got zero carbon emissions because it's all powered by natural resources or renewable resources, and it's cooled because of the temperature. It's cooled in an ambient fashion. I could move these workloads over there and save X amount of dollars in energy cost, and I could lower my sustainability rating for by X amount in my kind of scope as far as emissions go. My scope 1, 2, and 3 kind of emissions can kind of go down considerably. Man, that's a really cool story to tell.
Yeah. Well, we've got the capability to do the monitoring and the planning. It's probably just on the execution phase that we're lacking to do something right now.
But here's the cool thing: when you look at It's called Building X, their management platform. When you look at that, they have data lakes that they're collecting all this data in. They have open interfaces. So they're making it so that, I as a IT manager or a data center manager could ingest that data into a larger platform like a Terraform or something. But more importantly, they're utilizing AI. When you think about agentic AI, this should make this fairly simple, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is what agentic AI is all about, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Man, what a vision. So I think Siemens sitting on a gold mine here with this Building X, and their smart infrastructure business in general. It's highly profitable. It's growing like crazy. But I think this Building X platform they have is like incredibly, or has incredible potential for kind of, what it could do for that company in the next few years. Not that it needs too much help because it's already so profitable, but boy, this could really accelerate that growth, and it could impact the industry considerably. So, gonna be fun to watch.
Well, the digitalization of data centers is, it's all driven by, things you're talking about, data growth and efficiency and sustainability and all those issues. And the challenges are the scalability, cost, and being able to integrate all that, just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you need a phased approach that combines all the technologies, AI and digital twins and organizational alignment, and you also have to have the financing to do it too.
I think you hit the last two, and maybe it's funny because I think the technology is maybe the easy part in this equation.
Yeah.
And the more difficult part, it's kind of like it's a convergence of OT and IT, and it has more to do with who owns the money, who owns this converged organization. It's all cultural and organizational, really, more than anything else, and those can be difficult barriers to overcome.
Yeah,
but it's gonna be fun to watch. Anyway, I could talk hours. I never thought I'd get excited about dry transformers and about how you bleed nitrogen into a data center to reduce the oxygen levels, but it is fascinating. And maybe I'm going to be posting a blog on this, a research note on this.
Hey, listen, it goes deep. That's what keeps the marriage alive, is thinking about things like that,
Nitrogen, yes.
Yeah.
Let's move on we can get in trouble. Let's move on to your next topic, AI alliances. Yes, I remember this. AI alliances, exponential growth. Talk about this.
Yeah, I wrote an article last year about the formation of the AI Alliance. It was founded in December of 23 by IBM and Meta, and it had 50 other initial members. And then over a time, it's really grown. It's grown exponentially. It's got now over 140 worldwide members.
Oh wow!
I think it's become a real important force in terms of democratizing AI.
Sure.
It's currently the world's largest coordinated effort to advance open source AI. And I think the fact that it's seen that much growth is a good indication that the arc of developing AI is shifting towards open source now. So it's got 12, over that year of time, it's got 12 major working groups that are focusing on all the major issues, range from like data provenance to quality and trust and safety issues. Right now, it's got over 90 active projects. It's got 1,200 working group where guys are collaborating, companies are collaborating.
Wow.
It has participated in events in I think 12 different countries. Oh. And that involves like 20,000 people. So its message is getting out.
Mm-hmm.
And the important thing is that it's published over this year time. It's published 5 alliance guides on really important AI topics that researchers and developers need the tools and they need guides for building AI and using it. So they've done really well. It's got a number of really strategic projects planned for 2025. And my understanding is that its goal is to expand its reach and its impact by tenfold this year. So they've got ambitious program planned, and they're doing great things. So
That's incredible how quickly it's taken off. I have to ask, and I think I know the answer, but I will ask anyway. Has NVIDIA happened to join the alliance?
no, not that I know of yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
And there were several reasons why they decided to form
Yeah,
the alliance, and I won't go any further than that.
you never know, though. Kind of embrace your enemy, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, before this was formed, the open source AI was pretty scattered and fragmented. The models were kind of undeveloped, and there were only a few nonprofits that could actually train models that were like up to GPT level at the time. So, and it's only a short time ago, but it seemed like a long time ago. But only the big companies were actually doing AI development because it was so expensive and so technical. And in 23, I think was the breakthrough. I think there were like 30 new models that came out.
Yeah.
Open source models that came out. And when Meta released I don't know if you remember or not, when they released Llama 2 as an open source, I think it was on Hugging Face at the time.
Yep.
There were over 10,000 derivatives that were created by downloading that model and doing things with it. So, and that happened in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when open source really took off.
This is where, I was half joking about asking about NVIDIA, but I think actually there's a lot they could contribute and a lot they could get from being a part of that alliance. There's the whole, like, here's our framework, here's our silicon up to our frameworks and our software. But there's a lot going on in the market where I think they could add a lot of, and maybe they're probably contributing in other ways, but it's certainly an interesting dynamic. Related to that, Paul, have you found that, through this exponential growth, have you found any of the Chinese AI company, or not companies, but clouds like Tencent or Baidu or Ali?
They're trying to figure out what to do about that now. I think one group is actually collaborating with one of the Chinese companies, but as far as the formal membership, they're working on that right now. They're trying to figure out what to do, and I mean it is kind of I don't given the position of the two countries and where they're headed, from a military standpoint. I wouldn't think it would be a very good idea.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but and I hear you. Now, if you flip that coin over, the other side is, AI is going to it's impacting the globe, right? And the use of these again, there's a lot of different ways you can go, but the use of models around the world, there's a way, I believe, that the industry can work together to deliver goodness, across the globe. Like I was reading somewhere where Ali has really taken over, not owned, but it's really taken off, is a better word, has taken off in South America because of its multilingual support. It's apparently got very good multilingual, and it's like there have to, and like you look at DeepSeek, right? Sorry, that's my. There have to be learnings that can be leveraged, kind of across the open source community, you would think.
For the first time, my dog is not under my desk. And we would have a war here, barking between the two, if he was in here.
He never barks. That's a funny thing. But you have to think like there's a way that, maybe you kind of build these, these like firewalls, but in these areas we can work together and contribute and kind of make, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being naive. It wouldn't be the first time I've been accused of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, open source is definitely way to go. I mean, they're projecting that 70% of the industrial AI applications are going to be running on open source in a few years. So.
Yeah, got to figure something out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a fun topic too, kind of like the quantum stuff. I think we could talk all day about this. It's there's just so much there. But speaking of kind of related to quantum, so and moving on. So we hit HPE announced their Q1 fiscal year 25 earnings yesterday. And that kind of rounds out the OEM earnings seasons for servers. Wanted to kind of do a quick highlight drive-by because it was an interesting quarter. If viewers and listeners remember, the last kind of I call it earnings season, right? The last earnings season, last quarter, you saw Lenovo, HPE, Dell, and Supermicro have like these incredible earnings, like triple-digit growth in some cases around server revenues. And all of it has been driven by had been driven by AI. So fast forward, new quarter, did that trend continue? Kind of did. I'm going to be looking down a little bit because I have some numbers written down because I can't remember them all. But starting with Lenovo, who announced a couple of weeks ago, 3.9 billion represented for ISG revenue, represented a 59% year-over-year growth, which is pretty incredible. They were up 19% quarter over quarter, so they continued that trend. And it was buoyed by their CSP, their cloud business, which saw a 94% increase. I think this is largely due to AI and kind of more and more CSPs deploying and newer CSPs deploying their own AI infrastructure for model development and services. But they also saw good growth, near double-digit growth in enterprise and SMB as well, an area where they have been struggling mightily forever. And I liken some of this to their new president of ISG, Ashley Gopalakrishnan, he was at Dell before and gets how this works. And you have folks like Vlad Rozanovich who did this at AMD. You've got a team there now that really understands how to penetrate enterprise IT, which I think is going to be a really good play for them. You look at that in combination with their closing Infinidat in a couple of quarters, and I think they're going to be well positioned in that enterprise space. Part one. Part two, Dell announced just a few days ago, and I think it was their Q4 for fiscal 25 that they announced. Overall revenue for their ISG, which is infrastructure for data center, 11.4 billion for the quarter. Down, so server came in at 6.6 billion. It was down 10% quarter over quarter, which is not a big deal because their last quarter was such an anomaly, but it was up 37% year over year. So good for server. Storage equally saw a good positive trend on the storage side as well, where they saw 18% quarter over quarter growth and 5% year over year. This is a big deal because storage had been running kind of flat for a lot of these OEMs, save Lenovo, for both Dell and HPE. Server had been running flat to very low for some time. So it's good to see this. And I suspect some of this is tied to kind of the drafting off of AI. So wanting high performance storage to support these high performance servers that you're shipping out. And finally, so server HPE announced yesterday, Q1 fiscal 25. how people figure out their fiscal years is beyond me. But anyway, numbers came in. They were a little bit mixed. They had a strong quarter in terms of revenue. So server was up 30% year over year, which is a good number. It was down 9% or so quarter over quarter. But again, like Dell, they just had such a blowout previous quarter that being down is really not indicative of not selling a lot of servers. They took a shave on margins.
Is there any pressure on their pricing?
It's a combination of pricing, and apparently they had some miscalculations on valuation of existing inventory. So they had the pressure of pricing, and then they misunderstood where they were from valuation, so they discounted deeper than they should have, which impacted enterprise. And in the channel business, pricing is everything. Margin, it's like the lowest wins most of the time. And as they expand into CSP, service provider space, that impacts as well. So yeah, it was pricing, pricing pressure from the likes of Lenovo, from the likes of Supermicro. It was understanding where that baseline was for discounting, which impacts pricing as well. So they saw their margins really weren't great, but I understand kind of how they got there. Really great quarter in terms of GreenLake. They're up to 41,000 customers, and their hybrid cloud, which includes GreenLake and Alletra MP, which is their kind of universal storage platform, saw 11% year-over-year growth. So that's good. They're seeing strong growth again in storage and in their hybrid cloud. So good stuff. AI looked good. And they're saying that they're going to be back on track with kind of margin normalization for server on the back half of 2020 calendar 2025. So I guess fiscal too. So good numbers. The margin hurts, but I get how they got there. But good numbers overall. My takeaway is the server market and the infrastructure market is strong. I've seen some CAGR numbers over the next 3 years that showed it about a 25% CAGR. I don't know if I think it's that strong, but it's going to be good. And while it's largely driven by AI, we're also seeing the kind of the modernization server refresh cycle starting to take center stage as well, because Intel, AMD have done such a good job of driving performance per watt that it's compelling to update that older infrastructure. That and the expedited or the accelerated innovation cycle for GPUs is driving a lot of faster refresh cycles than normal. So I'll shut up there and let you ask any questions you might have.
Yeah. What about hybrid cloud? Did you look at the guidance on hybrid cloud?
Yeah, so that's their part of that is their GreenLake. For HPE, that's their GreenLake. For Dell and Lenovo, hybrid cloud it's kind of like what everybody, when you look at IT remove AI from the equation, right? And by the way, HPE and Dell both saw strong enterprise AI adoption. But when you remove that from the equation, when IT is deploying infrastructure today, it's all that cloud operating model, and it's all hybrid cloud. And it's not just hybrid cloud, it's hybrid clouds, because it's an on-prem cloud environment with a cloud operating model that is connecting you to Azure, AWS, OCI, GCP, depending on the workload and depending on the data. So it's connecting to multiple clouds simultaneously. And that is what every IT person I speak to today, that is what they're deploying in their data centers. There isn't, the notion of like, we're going to deploy on-prem and keep everything on-prem and there's no cloud connectivity. That is so 1990s thinking. You just don't see it anymore. Did I go too far on that?
No, I don't think so. What about profitability overall?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, what about profitability overall?
Yeah, this is where we have seen kind of margins on server infrastructure. I think if you could map out from say 20 years ago to now, it's going like this, right? It's getting lower, but that rate of decrease in margins has flattened. I think Dell they had healthy operating margins this quarter. I want to say they're up around 20% for operating margins on server. Maybe it was 22%, and Lenovo was in like I think the 12 to 15%. So not fantastic, but that's pure hardware, right? And hardware is always going to sell at a lower margin than software. And the impact of AI, where they're recognizing virtually no margin whatsoever on those NVIDIA GPUs they're plugging in those servers, that's creating a drag on profitability as well, right? Or on operating margin, because NVIDIA can effectively set the price. And the server manufacturers are really just acting as a pass-through to their customers, right? So they're not making a lot of money on what they're plugging in, which typically those used to be very high margin parts for them. So it would kind of artificially increase their margins. Now it's artificially decrease. Oh no, not really artificially, but it's decreasing their margins at this point. And that's why you see the big emphasis on hybrid cloud and a software value add that HPE puts a big focus on. GreenLake, they have their own hybrid cloud stack and all of the manageability and services, because that's where the margin starts to come in. Yeah. Sorry. Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, another topic I could talk about all day. I'm sorry, but I can talk about anything all day. I think we hit the end of our topics, Paul. And I hate that we have to leave early, but because Will is still in jail and he won't be paroled until next week, we're on our own.
He's in jail, but he can't speak Spanish, so
he can barely speak English.
Yeah.
He's good at
Spanish, but I can't speak it.
All right. Hey, listen, any closing thoughts before we say goodbye to our folks around the world that are listening and watching us?
Only I'm really surprised that it's already March.
Mm-hmm. This year is flying by. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But what's cool is next podcast, in addition to our third leg joining us again, it will be on the heels of GTC, NVIDIA's GTC. So we'll have quite a bit to talk about. So it's going to be a fun discussion. Yeah. All right. So let's close out. So thanks for listening in to, like I said, the world's smartest man, Paul Smith-Goodson, and myself. We hope that you got something out of this. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And we'll close with this. Please don't take anything we say, repeat it. Don't take anything we say as investment advice. We are not financial analysts. We're industry analysts, and we look at technology, not at dollars and cents. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you in a couple weeks, and have a great weekend.